All right, thank you, Liz. Time to go fishing here on the Morning News. Jason Matity, fishing expert, joining us now. Thanks for coming in this morning, Jason.
You're welcome.
What are we talking about today?
Well, we've had lots of heat. Coming up to this point, obviously, Liz just said it's going to cool off and get rainy and windy. But what that heat has done is it has built a substantial weed line in most of our lakes around Regina and in southern Saskatchewan. And it's annoying if you're a swimmer. It's annoying if you're a boater. But man, is it a bonanza if you're a fisherman. And that's because it is habitat, and you can hit it from both sides for success.
So how do we go about doing it? How do we work that to our advantage then?
Well, if you're in a boat, which is my favorite option when you're working the weed line, you can get to the outside edge of the weed line. Most weed lines set up probably between about 5 and about 8, 9 feet in a lake. So you're in that 9 feet deeper edge. And that's where some of the bigger predators tend to go because they've got the easy access to the deeper water. But essentially, think of it this way. You've got your weed line, and you troll like this along it. Just like, think of it as a bit of a highway you're going along. And then out of the ditch or the weeds, this wildlife comes out, i.e. walleyes, pike, bang, and they hit your lures. So one of the best ways to get them is to just troll along it this way. If you're on the other side and you're shore-bound, cast small stuff like some of the jigs I brought. Just throw those like a reel bait flasher jig, just throw it at the weed line and slowly bring it back. And you'll get those predators coming out of the weeds after it.
Very cool. And this technique you were showing me earlier with this rod you brought in is
yeah, this is
interesting too. It's a new technique.
Yeah, this is called bottom bouncing, and you can put any lure behind it, but basically this assures that you're along the bottom. So you just gently let it down, drag that weight along the bottom, and if you do have a rod holder in your boat, it's the best way to fish because you just throw the rod in, lock it down, and when the rod doubles over and loads, just reel the fish in. Like it's quite foolproof. And if you know, some of the harder baits, like we recommend for bigger fish at this time of year, aggressive fish, you know, like your crankbaits, you don't typically go with the weight because you're looking 9, 10 feet of water. But if you're finding those ones aren't getting you the results that you're hoping for, going with this and just a simple hook on the end or a spinner with a worm or a leech, some live bait, can really up your odds of putting fish in the boat.
Interesting. How does fishing change from the spring, summer to when we get into the fall? Does it change technique-wise and what we're catching? For
sure. Like a lot of times those bigger fish are going deep in the heat of the summer. But they make forays to that weed line because that weed line is full of perch and it's full of shiners, everything that those big fish like to eat. So that's why it's so critical to work the weed line. But as the water continues to cool and the weeds die, then the heat of the water on the surface will go away. It churns up as we get the big winds, and the lake's the same temperature again, something called turnover. So then the fish can be anywhere at that point until they start setting up for their fall range, which is a whole other topic for another day.
Yeah, that is. But you're going to be at Cabela's this weekend in Regina.
For sure. We're going to be at Cabela's in Regina, 1 o'clock, talking a lot more about the weed line technique and how to extract those fish from the weed line. Regina, tomorrow, 1 o'clock, just before the Rider game. And if you're heading up to Saskatoon, we'll be there at 1 o'clock on Sunday as well at Cabela's.
Awesome. And MatadysGetFishing.com for more information. If you can't make it over to Cabela's this weekend. Thanks for coming in, Jason.
You betcha. Thank you.
Andrea?
Thanks.